Gotham High was a concept for an animated series about teenage Bruce Wayne in high school with his enemies and allies. The idea came from Jeffrey Thomas, who had drawn a picture of a young Joker and Harley Quinn and showed it to DC. They liked it enough to try and make a series about it. The series was supposed to have Bruce Wayne making his way through high school with everyone representing a different social clique. It said that the show was lost in the shuffle and wound up cancelled. All we have of the show is some concept art, but there are rumors swirling that the series ended up being reworked into a comic book by Melissa De La Cruz and Thomas Patilli in December of 2020.
The Cops was a planned animated series that was set to air on TBS as a new premiere show in 2018. It would follow two police officers, played by the creators of the show, Louis C.K. and Albert Brooks. An introduction line for the series says, quote, "Ride with them as they patrol one of the biggest cities in the world. Then go home with them and be glad you're not married to either." Louis was very popular at the time, so this new animated comedy series was expected to do very well. TBS ordered 10 episodes and production began. Promos were shown on TBS and fans got excited, and then the allegations against Louis C.K. started coming out. The New York Times printed an expose on the comedian and wrote about him doing strange acts in front of women. C.K. responded saying the stories are true, and that he used his position of power irresponsibly. In light of this, TBS canceled the show and stopped working with Louis altogether. It's unknown if all 10 episodes were complete, but we can see small clips of the Cops, so we at least know the pilot episode was finished. All that can be seen of this animated series today is some very short clips in a YouTube video titled "Coming Soon to TBS." And an interesting thing about that video is TBS still has the show on the thumbnail, almost showing you how big they wanted it to be. Bone is a graphic novel series done in black and white that follows three lost cousins from Boneville. Author of the series, Jeff Smith, describes his comics as a fish out of water story. The three cousins Phony Bone, Phone Bone, and Smiley Bone get lost in a fairy tale valley that has dark fantasy elements. They spend an entire year lost and along the way, make some friends while trying to stay out of trouble. Bone's original run was from 1991 to 2004. 55 issues were published. The Bone comics won many awards and became very popular. From 2005 to 2009, Scholastic printed colored versions of the comics. Also, a one-volume edition book was made, containing every issue from start to finish. Spin-offs have been made as well, such as Thorn, Tales from the Lantern, and a follow-up series titled Bone, Tall Tales. Now that I have briefly went over the story of Bone comic books, it's time to get to the main point of this video. In October of 2019, Netflix announced that they were going to develop a Bone animated series. Fans of the comics were thrilled to finally see Bone go from the page to the TV screen. However, after the initial announcement, the project was quietly put on hold due to the pandemic's effect on the entertainment industry in 2020. Creator of the Bone series, Jeff Smith, stayed positive, and instead of waiting around, he gathered an amazing team to put together the animated series. Smith watched a lot of Netflix and Cartoon Network, so he began asking if certain people from his favorite shows were available. By the time Netflix was ready to start production, Jeff Smith said he was able to get everyone he wanted to work on the show. Finally, at San Diego Comic-Con in 2021, Smith spoke on the animated series and said it's currently in the writing process. This, alongside with having a great team, was good news for fans and generated excitement for the show once again. 4 months later, Jeff Smith was interviewed by Polygon for the 30th anniversary of Bone. He describes the journey of Bone and how it got popular. from working with Disney to getting the deal with Scholastic to make colored versions of the comics. Later on, the interviewer asks about the Netflix series. Smith said that it's going much better than previous attempts to bring Bone to the screen, going on to say that he once had a movie deal with Paramount and Nickelodeon. In the late 90s, when Bone was still being published, Nickelodeon began working with Smith to produce a Bone animated film. Jeff's vision was to have no music in the film. He wanted it to be different than all of the other animated features that were being made at the time, such as Disney movies filled with musical segments. Nickelodeon had an idea to put a Britney Spears song in the Bone movie. After a clash of ideas, Smith told Nick that he needed a written agreement that there would be no songs. Nickelodeon finally granted this request so everyone could move forward with the project. It seemed like Smith and Nickelodeon were seeing eye to eye and production was off to a good start. An executive from Nick said to Jeff, "Okay, we can get $12 million if we put a pop song in the movie." The executive then proceeded to ask Smith if he thinks a Britney Spears or NSYNC song could fit in the film. Smith refused and went back to focusing on the comics. Meanwhile, the Nickelodeon Bone movie was cancelled. To this day, it's unknown how far Nick's version of the film got in production. Only 2 pieces of concept art are available for public viewing. In the Polygon interview, Jeff Smith also states that he had a miserable experience with Warner Brothers. In 2008, it was announced that Warner Brothers bought the film rights to Bone. A new project for a Bone film under Warner Brothers began production in 2009. This film would be a CGI trilogy based on the first 4 books in the series. Aiming for a PG-13 rating, the team quickly got to work, writing scripts and doing animatics. 2 years later, in the summer of 2011, a demo reel of the movie was shown to Jeff Smith. The footage lasted 4 minutes and was described as phone bone falling into water and a dragon appearing from the shadows and smoke. After watching the demo, Smith described the 4 minutes as being pretty mind-blowing. The film would be named Bone: Return of the Dragon and was projected for a 2014 release date. After a good start, years went by with no update on the project. In 2016, Adam Klein and director of Kung Fu Panda Mark Osborne was brought onto the film. This was promising news that, unfortunately, didn't lead to any progress. It's never been said how much animation was done for this movie. The 4-minute demo reel was not shown publicly, but I'm sure it's locked away somewhere at Warner Brothers, or possibly Jeff Smith owns the footage. All we can see of this cancelled film is the front page of a script from 2017. Speaking on this cancelled film, Smith said that executives were very stubborn and didn't listen to his ideas. Because of these awful experiences with studios, Jeff Smith and his wife decided that when they get the rights back, they never wanted to talk with the studio executive ever again. Once the rights were reverted back to Smith, Netflix offered to make a Bone animated series. Unlike the previous companies, Netflix was receptive to Jeff's vision. Smith compared Netflix to Scholastic, saying those were 2 companies that know how to handle the series. He then reflected on his experience working with Netflix and stated that executives from the company said, quote, "We'll do it as an animated series. We'll follow the book and it'll unfold in much the same way that it did in the chapters of the comics." At this time, the animated series was still in the writing process. Jeff Smith and his dream team were firing on all cylinders, putting in the work to make this show a masterpiece. Smith went on to say, "Netflix is the perfect home for Bone. Fans of the books know that the story develops chapter by chapter and book by book. An animated series is exactly the way to do this. The team at Netflix understands Bone and is committed to doing something special. This is good news for kids and cartoon lovers all over the world. Some time went by, and very quickly, positive turned to negative. On April 20th of 2022, the Wrap.com reported that Netflix's Director of Creative Leadership and Development for Original Animation, Phil Renda, was fired along with most other members of the animation department. Creators that no longer work for Netflix revealed that several major projects have been canceled. These crucial changes are because of Netflix losing over 200,000 subscribers in the first 3 months of this year, leading to the stock price of the company to plummet. This is a bad move for Netflix, and worst of all, at the head of the canceled projects is Bone, the animated series. Once again, an attempt to bring the beloved comic series to screen has failed. On April 22nd, series creator Jeff Smith responded to the breaking news with a Twitter post. The tweet reads, "Sigh," and shows a comic strip showing Phone Bone about to kick a football. He represents Jeff Smith in the series. The character holding the ball for him represents Nickelodeon, Warner Brothers, and Netflix. Each time Phone Bone goes to kick, the other character moves the ball, causing Phone Bone to miss and fall down. The comic strip ends with Phone Bone laying on the ground defeated, saying, "Never again," just before another company tries to introduce themselves. The comic strip is signed by Jeff Smith at the bottom, and it also reads, "With apologies to Schultz." This is referring to Charles M. Schultz, creator of the Peanuts comic strip that introduced Charlie Brown and Snoopy. Schultz was an inspiration for Jeff Smith. His father would read the Peanuts comic strip to him every Sunday. Netflix really dropped the ball with Bone. Smith had the perfect team and was ready to go, just to face another cancellation. I think it's safe to say we will never see Bone go from the book to the screen. In an interview with YouTube channel The Comics Cube, Smith confirmed that he had seen storyboards and animatics for the animated series, and stated that they were very promising. If anything, I hope a pilot episode was finished so maybe one day we can see what could have been. Felix the Cat is a classic cartoon character that has been around for years. In 2010, the animation studio Team TO began production on a new Felix the Cat animated series. A pilot episode was created, however, it is unknown which network it was pitched to. CEO of Felix the Cat Productions Don Oriolo said the new series was planned for 52 episodes. The project was cancelled for unknown reasons. Concept art and character sheets of the show can be found online, and an 8-second clip is all we can see of the pitch pilot today. Because of the obscurity of this series, I'm not sure if the full pilot episode will be found. It's been rumored that an animated series was in the works and set to release alongside Crash 4. A video recently surfaced online showing 30 seconds of the show. The series was being produced by Activision and would have been available on Amazon. No further details were released about the show except the fact that it got cancelled due to creative disagreements, with one source stating, "The Crash animated series was cancelled because of one joke." When I think of classic cartoons, the Flintstones is one of the first shows that come to mind. Most people watching this video are probably familiar with the Flintstones, but something a lot of people don't know is that in 2011, Seth MacFarlane began developing a reboot of the series. A short segment on Fox showed concept art for the show, with MacFarlane talking about plans for the reboot. The segment ends saying the show will air in 2013 on Fox. Seth wanted to keep the same feel of the original show, but in a more current style and world. The humor in the series would have been similar to early episodes of The Simpsons, In 2012, a strip from one of the episodes was shown to Kevin Riley, who was the head of Fox at the time, for approval. It was reported that he liked it but didn't love it. At the time, Seth MacFarlane was working on new episodes for American Dad, The Cleveland Show, and Family Guy. Also his theatrical directorial debut, Ted. So he was very busy while trying to create the Flintstones reboot. A final meeting was held with Fox about the Flintstones. Seth was given the option to start over on the reboot or shelve the entire project, giving him more time to work on other shows. He decided to close the door for good on the Flintstones. It's said that the team who worked on the project were highly disappointed in this decision because it led to most of them getting laid off. There was a few storyboards that were finished for the show, and it's rumored that 10 minutes of animation was created to show investors. However, this cannot be confirmed because the footage still isn't available to this day. The latest update on the Flintstones reboot was in 2017. When Seth MacFarlane was asked about the project on Reddit, he said, quote, "As of now, probably not. Honestly, I couldn't figure out a way to find enough differentiation between a modern-day Fred Flintstone and Peter Griffin." In 2007, production began on a BanjoKazooie animated series. Planned to release alongside the new game BanjoKazooie Nuts and Bolts, it's said that the show would have been created with CGI, even though the concept art is 2D. This sounded like it could be enjoyable, and I definitely think Banjo has a storyline worthy of an animated series. The art style was going to take a different direction than the usual look from the 64 games. However, after only a few months of production, the project wasn't looking good. Emilio Lopez was part of the development team, and he said of the show, quote, "It was falling apart," stating that it had been revised too many times as the main problem that halted development. In 2008, BanjoKazooie the animated series was cancelled. It was never officially announced and seemed to just be forgotten about. No animation was ever created for the show. All that can be seen is a few pieces of concept art. Ooh Ah is an animated pilot episode created by Eva Entertainment in the year 2000. As described by creators, the plot goes like this. A few people thought that little green men would be the answer to their call. Of course, they were wrong. The film tells the story of 3 helpless aliens who travel to Earth in search of intelligent life, and go back with a stupid mutt. Other than this description, not much is known about Ooh Ah. Was this a pitch for an animated series? Or was it just a short cartoon film? This remains a mystery. It's said that this cartoon did air, but the network it appeared on is unknown. All that can be seen of the episode is 3 pieces of concept art. Clerks is an independent comedy film that was directed, written, and produced by Kevin Smith and released in 1994. It shows a day in the life of 2 store clerks, Dante Hicks and Randall Graves, along with other characters popping in throughout the movie like Jay and Silent Bob. This is one of my favorite films of all time and has an amazing backstory that I plan to cover in a future video. Today, we're going to talk about the biggest failure related to the movie, the Clerks sitcom pilot. Seeing that Clerks was a huge success, bringing in over $3 million at the box office, the next year in 1995, TV executives wanted to make a show based on the movie. The pilot episode features comedian Jim Brewer, who played the stoner in Half-Baked. It starts out with the description, Touchstone Television, and says, "Not for air" in bold print. I watched the full episode, and it's almost unbearable. The comedy and jokes just try too hard, in my opinion, and are cringeworthy at times. Just so you can get a feel of the episode, I'll show a clip of it here.
So what are you doing back in town? I thought you were going off to college.
Graduated. Next week I start at Meyerson and Orbach in New York. That's a law firm.
Oh, yeah, Meyerson and Orbach. They were here last week for nachos.
So, Dante, this is your life, huh? I really admire the way you never got caught up in that whole dignity thing. Veronica.
Cliff! Hi!
Wait, well, you two know each other?
Yeah, Cliff took out a girl from my accounting class.
Not that she was my first choice.
Well, Cliff, I would really love to stand here and chat forever, but we're getting ready to close.
Thought you're open 24 hours.
Yeah, but not at night.
What did you do that for? He's a nice guy.
The guy's a narc and a coward. If you've gone to high school with him, you would know.
Yeah, you remember the time we were painting Bookley Tower?
Why were you painting Bookley Tower?
Oh, just a little thing called tradition. Every year, a group of seniors would go up to the tower and deface it. Of course, kids these days can't be bothered. Punks.
The writing is terrible, but how could it be so bad just 1 year apart from the successful movie Kevin Smith wrote? Well, that's just it. Kevin Smith was not even aware that the pilot was being filmed. Another thing that might shock you is that Brian O'Halloran, who played Dante in Clerks, and Jeff Anderson, who played Randall, auditioned for roles in the sitcom but didn't get the part. So the writer and two main actors of Clerks were not involved with the sitcom? This was a train wreck from the start. It looks like someone enjoyed the movie and wanted to turn it into something of their own. Reportedly, Jeff Anderson and Brian O'Halloran were glad they didn't get parts in the show after seeing how bad it was. The pilot was put together by Michael Lasik, who is attached to a number of low-budget films. It's rumored that Kevin Smith considered adding the episode to a 10th anniversary Clerks DVD, but didn't even make it through a few minutes of it and scrapped the idea. Other than a review from 2006 by IMDb, the Clerks Pilot episode was lost for 20 years until it was uploaded in full on January 25th of 2015. This was an attempt to turn Clerks into a TV-friendly sitcom. The comedy was just too turned down. Clerks just doesn't connect in that form. If you want to try and give it a watch, the pilot is on YouTube. I would like to know what you think of the pilot, so let me know in the comment section. Orenthal James Simpson, better known as OJ, is known for a lot of things. He was an outstanding running back for the Buffalo Bills and was the NFL's MVP in 1973. Nicknamed the Juice, he was the first player to rush for over 2,000 yards in a season. Among other awards and accomplishments, he was Athlete of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, also making his way to 5 Pro Bowls. Interestingly enough, OJ became an actor before he was in the NFL. While negotiating a contract with the Buffalo Bills, he was cast in the first episode of Medical Center. He would also be part of a few films in the 70s, such as The Towering Inferno, Capricorn 1, and The Klansman. Later on, OJ started his own production company called Orenthal Productions, usually putting together made-for-TV films. The Juice was also a commentator for Monday Night Football. This is a long list of great accomplishments, but on June 12th of 1994, OJ would be known for something terrible. The murder of his wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman. The two were found stabbed to death outside of Nicole's condo in Los Angeles. OJ was immediately a person of interest for the crime. 5 days later, he was in a police chase. This was broadcast during the 1994 NBA Finals and seen by millions of viewers. He was arrested when the chase came to an end and would be tried in court for these murders, often referred to as the trial of the century. This took place in October of 1995. The glove didn't fit, so OJ was found not guilty. People were outraged at this decision, as it seemed like if you were a successful, famous person, then you could get away with anything. 3 years later, a $33.5 million judgment was ordered to Simpson for the wrongful deaths. Around the year 2000, OJ moved to Miami to avoid paying the judgment. Word of the former running back went quiet for a while. until 2007. The Juice was arrested on felony charges of kidnapping and armed robbery in Las Vegas. He received a 33-year prison sentence and served nearly 10 years at Lovelock Correctional Center before getting an early release in 2017. Aside from him sending knife emojis to a few people since then, that's basically the story of OJ. But now, it's time to explore a forgotten piece of the story that is lost to this day.
We have an exclusive on the OJ film the police want to see. You get to see it right here.
There's a fairly good chance that O.J. Simpson's biggest movie role will never see the light of day, except perhaps as a piece of evidence in open court. Now, Simpson plays the lead in Frogmen, a made-for-TV movie that promised to make him the next big action hero. Entertainment Tonight was there before O.J. Simpson's fortunes declined, and as you watch, keep in mind how O.J.'s life has dramatically changed.
In 1994, just months before the murders, a 2-hour movie pilot was filmed and produced by NBC titled Frogmen. This pilot was planned to be turned into a new series on NBC. It was about a team of Navy SEALs that went on missions and took on special government assignments. The storyline has been compared to the A-Team. In this 2-hour pilot, O.J. Simpson was the leader of the team named John Bullfrog Burke. Strangely enough, this character was a knife expert, so OJ received knife training for the role. In between filming scenes, Simpson and co-star Todd Allen visited a cutlery store. It's believed that OJ later returned to the store to purchase a knife for himself. This could possibly be the murder weapon that was never found. During the film, John Bullfrog Burke goes to Costa Rica accompanied by his team of SEALs, set out to rescue a friend that married Burke's ex-wife. Many plot points in Frogmen are eerily similar to things that would happen to O.J. Simpson later that year. A screenshot of the movie exists that shows him holding a knife to a woman's throat. At one point of the movie, Simpson is asked, "How are the jails in Costa Rica?" This is coincidental because OJ would spend more than 1 year in jail awaiting his trial. Another coincidental scene from the 2-hour film is when OJ and his team are surrounded by police. It's been said by people who worked on Frogmen that if it was adapted into a series, it could have potentially brought in ratings higher than Friends and ER combined. The 2-hour project was filmed and ready to air, and then Simpson was arrested for the murders. In order to dodge controversy, NBC shelved the project, and Frogmen became known as the blockbuster no one saw. While searching the Simpson residence for weapons, cops found a copy of Frogmen. It was introduced as evidence but was never played in the courtroom. This is because OJ's defense team shut it down, accusing the police of misconduct because they watched it inside of Simpson's house. The OJ trial was so publicized that Frogmen was quickly forgotten about. The full movie has only been seen by cast and crew members and was only screened one time for executives. Warner Bros. Put together a 25-minute tape showcasing the pilot film. A source close to the production of Frogmen showed this tape to the Times, so they could concept the direction of it and see how big it could have been. Years later, a spokesperson from Warner Brothers spoke on the shelving of the project saying, quote, "We believed on many levels for many reasons. Broadcasting the program in whole or in part was inappropriate," adding that all of those reasons seem as valid today as they were then, end quote. It was estimated that, if released in the mid-90s, the film could have brought in over $14 million in profits. As of now, Frogmen is locked away in a vault at Warner Brothers headquarters. It would be interesting to watch this knowing what we know now. All that can be seen of the pilot publicly is a TV spot about the movie and some screenshots. That is The Tale of Frogmen, OJ's canceled TV show. A true story of what if. For now, it remains a mystery.
What makes this so haunting is that this was a routine, on-location shoot for Entertainment Tonight, and now you find yourself, and I'm sure everybody at home finds themselves, hanging on every word that he says.
Exactly, and you do see the stark contrast. He's the happy-go-lucky, very amiable, and, you know, man with a sense of humor there that so many of us know so well, as opposed to the man sitting in court and under very serious circumstances.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy. That OJ is great.